Hi everyone, this is Jill Celeste from JillCeleste.com and the Celestial Marketing Academy, where I teach entrepreneurs all they need to know about marketing so they can become the director of marketing for your business. Let's talk today about the unfortunate event when you have to fire a client. Ugh, it is one of the worst feelings in the world. But as a business owner, know that sometimes this happens and it's just part of doing business. So there could be a lot of reasons why you have to terminate a relationship with your customer. Maybe they haven't paid you, maybe they're not respecting your time, maybe it feels like a bad vibe, maybe they're not giving you the materials that you need to do your job. Whatever the case may be, you will probably have a very good reason on the rare occasion that you have to fire a client. So what I want you to think about when you're coming upon this situation is you want to make the separation as positive as possible. And that could be a challenge, especially if there's something icky going on. But if you focus on the positive, it will feel better for you at the end. So how do you fire a client? Well, first of all, do you have a contract? That's always the first consideration. If you have a contract with your client, the first thing I want to challenge you to do is just, to see how much longer is on that contract. If it's just another 30, 60 days, then maybe it's just better to kind of stick it out and then just tell that client that you won't be renewing that contract at the end. That is actually one of the easier approaches. I know it's never great for your mindset to work with someone who's, maybe not the best customer for you, but it is an easier way to kind of sever that relationship when the contract ends. So that's something to consider. But if you are in a contract and it's nowhere near the end, look at the terms that you have in your contract for terminating that contract. Most contracts have some type of clause in there, such as a 60 days notice. Whatever it states in your contract, make sure you are abiding by that when you notify your customer. Now, if you don't have a contract, what I recommend is some type of exit strategy. And that could look like, determining how many days notice you want to give your client. Depending on your industry, that could look like 30 days notice, 60 days notice, whatever the case may be. You want to give them as much notice as you possibly can. That'll make the transition much smoother for them. Also, make sure that you are finalizing the payment arrangements. Now, do they owe you more money? Is there another payment due? Make sure you spell out when that is going to come due and when they need to pay it. Or on the flip side, maybe you owe them a refund, so make sure you make plans for how you're going to refund them whatever money you have. And the last thing is I recommend firming up those deliverables. Depending on your industry, maybe you have things you have to deliver to your client before the end of the contract or before the end of the termination of the contract. And some things you're just going to do just because it's the right thing to do. When I always had agency clients, when I owned my social media marketing agency, when a client was sort of off board, whether I fired them or if they just kind of went through the end of the contract, I always delivered to them a spreadsheet with all their passwords to the social media accounts, because sometimes they forgot, whatever best practices I had picked up along the way. I really kind of gave them a document that they can just take and read, and it puts them up to speed as to where they are with the account they had with me. So if that's appropriate for your industry, I do recommend some type of final deliverable or some type of final document to kind of get them on their way. And you want to make sure that you get all that in writing, because again, you don't have the contract to protect you, so make sure you specify in writing, when the contract is going to be terminated, the payment, the deliverables. Put that in writing, and if you can get your client to sign it, even better. So that's another final tip. Also remember, don't take this personally. Try to keep it very upbeat. As I said, keep it very positive. This happens in business for whatever reason. Don't take it personally. It doesn't mean you're a failure as an entrepreneur. It just means that you didn't align with the right person to do business with. And let me tell you, there are a gazillion people out there who face the same thing. You're perfectly normal for having to do this. Another thing I recommend, one of the things I always try to do is I try to keep it classy. Not always, but I do try. And I like to always send a thank you note or a gift, especially if I'm terminating the contract. I always just like to send something through the snail mail to my client to thank them for allowing me to help them for the time that I did. So think about some kind of gesture you can do, some type of, even just a thank you note would go a long way to keep that relationship going. You don't want to burn any bridges with any clients. So think about that as well. And finally, once all of it's said and done and your client is off on her way, sit back and take some time to evaluate the relationship, because what often you'll find are opportunities for improvement with your business. Maybe after learning, after working with this client, you learned that you need to add something new to your contract or to your guidelines or to your agreements. Maybe there's a process you need to put in place to make sure this doesn't happen again. So take some time to evaluate your relationship with this particular client, and then use that to improve your business so that you're making sure you're attracting the right people in the future. So we don't like to fire clients, but when we do, hopefully these tips will help you. And if you need additional marketing assistance, head on over to my website at jillceleste.com. And until next time, here's to your marketing success, and have a great day.